healing from gaslighting. Gaslighting doesn't just hurt, it rewires the way that you see yourself. Here's how to undo that damage so that you can move forward in your life and in your relationships again. Moving forward after gaslighting requires, or at least begins with, one really crucial thing, and that is learning to believe in yourself and believing yourself again. Gaslighting steals your confidence. Here's how to rebuild the trust and confidence in yourself again. Why does your instinct get broken? Why is it that you now find yourself questioning every decision you make and whether or not your judgment is completely shot? It is so important for you to figure this out, because as you move forward, if you can't trust yourself, how are you going to trust your judgment on who you're dating, how you're parenting your kids, what job you take? You've got to be able to trust your judgment, to trust your gut, and be able to move forward again. Gaslighting is so destructive in your self-confidence because you've been told in one way or another for however long you've been in that relationship that you're wrong, that your feelings are wrong, that your point of view is wrong, that you're remembering things incorrectly, that you're not quite getting it. And so after being repeatedly hit over the head with that stick over and over and over again, your brain starts to wonder if he was right. Your brain starts to wonder if your judgment really is screwed up, and if you really can even trust the way that you see or interpret things. Different people are susceptible to gaslighting, to being gaslit, for different reasons. At the core, one of the biggest problems that at least gets developed is a lack of confidence in yourself, lack of self-worth or self-esteem, in believing that you're worth it, in believing that your grasp of reality is accurate, and in trusting your point of view. Gaslighters frequently, at least subconsciously, are looking for people who they can control. And so even a quality like being open to things and being open to new ideas and new thoughts can be manipulated by the right or the wrong person into a scenario where they can start eroding the confidence that you have in yourself. And so that's one quality or characteristic that can make you susceptible to gaslighting. Another one is really low self-esteem. When you already doubt yourself, and when you already feel like you're not really worth much, or you already go into a situation not trusting your opinions or your thoughts, your decision making, it's like a big beacon, flashing red light for a gaslighter to come to you and to be attracted to you. And so as you move forward, we want to change that. We want to make sure that you're attracting the kind of people into your life that you want to be with and with whom you can create a healthy relationship. So like we talked about in previous videos, gaslighting can be super overt and like, you're wrong, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, that's not what happened, to very subtle and coercive, soft ways of gaslighting and undermining the confidence that you have in the validity of your feelings, to somebody making you feel guilty for feeling the way that you do feel. One of the scariest parts of gaslighting, or faces of gaslighting, is when somebody makes you feel like you feeling the way that you feel is causing them pain. And so you can't be feeling what you're feeling, and what you're feeling is wrong because it's causing me pain. That can be one of the most difficult aspects of gaslighting to recognize. So what do you do about it? I want to talk about 3 specific steps that you can take to begin to heal in a healthy way from the gaslighting that you've been experiencing in your relationship or your past relationship. The first one is to practice making decisions. A likely outcome of what you've been through is making it so that it's super difficult to make even really small decisions in your life. Where to go to the grocery store, what groceries to buy, whether or not to go to a movie, whether or not you like the smell of a perfume or a cologne. You end up questioning yourself on all kinds of really small things. And so the first tip that I want to give you is to practice making really small decisions. You have to punctuate the fact that you can trust yourself, and you have to begin to collect data that you actually do have the ability to make good decisions. And so what I would invite you to do is today and each day, just say, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to trust and act on every decision that I make. Practice making decisions like, okay, I'm going to go to Walmart today. And once you make that decision, don't second guess it. Or, you know what? I'm going to have Alfredo tonight. I'm going to have pasta tonight. Or, you know what? I'm going to go for a run this afternoon. And just practice making little decisions and then following through on those things. Holding yourself accountable to trust the decisions that you make. I want to give you 3 specific things that you can do to begin to heal from the gaslighting that you've been experiencing. We're going to talk a little bit about learning to trust your decision making, then learning to trust your feelings, and then learning to trust other people again. And so the second thing that you need to be able to relearn is to trust your feelings. Your feelings are valid. Here's one of the things that's really important to understand about feelings. Feelings just are. We waste a lot of time in our lives and in our relationships getting upset at ourselves or other people for feelings, and feelings just are. We as human beings do not have the ability to command our feelings, but we do have the ability to command our thoughts. Let me explain what that means. If I say to you, I want you to think about an orange. Think about biting into a big, juicy orange. What's on your mind? Well, chances are pretty good that you're able to think about an orange. Or if I said to you, I want you to think about a beautiful sunset. You can think about that, right? Or if I say, I want you to think about biting into a lemon. You can think about that. The reason why you can think about all 3 of those things is because you as a human being have the ability to command your thoughts. We can direct where our minds go. But if I said to you, I want you to feel sad. Hurry up, feel sad. Or I said, okay, I want you to be really happy. Hurry up and feel happy. Or be turned on. Hurry up and feel turned on. You cannot make yourself feel sad or happy or turned on just because you want to feel those things. What would you have to do if you wanted to feel sad right now? Well, you could either do something that would make you feel sad, or you could think about something that made you sad or would make you sad. If you wanted to be happy, you could either think about something that did make you happy, or you could do something that would make you happy. And that is because we cannot command our feelings. Our feelings flow out of our actions and out of the way that we're thinking about what's going on. And so super, super important to understand that feelings just are. And chances are pretty good if you're coming out and trying to heal from a relationship where there was a lot of gaslighting, that you've been told that the way you feel is not okay and that your feelings have and or are wrong. Not so. So I want to give you this tool. There's a link below to help you access a worksheet to help you practice learning to appreciate and value and recognize your feelings. It's a cognitive cycle worksheet. And what all it does, and I'll walk you through it really quickly, you identify an event, doesn't matter what the event is, and you identify the interpretation that you initially assigned that event. We'll go through an easy one. In fact, I'll also put a link below to access one of these filled out, and I'll kind of go through that with you. So if the event is something simple like being cut off on the freeway, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off, that's the event. The first meaning that I want you to identify the meaning that you either did or would assign that. So if somebody cuts you off and you think, stupid idiot, if that's the interpretation that you assign that, what feeling either did or would come out of that? Probably anger, right? And so you have the event is somebody cuts you off. The interpretation is idiot. The feeling is anger. And then the 3 pieces below that are different possible actions that you could take for that feeling of anger. So you could honk, you could flip them off, you could tailgate them. Those are all different actions that are possibilities based on how you feel. Then I want you to identify an alternative meaning. Well, maybe they're in a hurry. If you assigned the meaning that they were in a hurry and that's why they cut you off, you would probably feel very different about that. You might have some understanding, you might feel a little nervous, but probably not angry. And then what possible reactions do you have from that? Well, you could honk, but a different kind of a honk, right? Like a, hey, I'm here kind of a honk. You could wave, just let them know, hey, yeah, I see, I've got you, no big deal. Or you could do nothing. And then a third possible interpretation might be that they didn't see you, it was an accident. Again, that interpretation would produce a very different feeling. The emotional response to that might be feeling a little bit nervous, but probably not angry, and maybe not even compassion. And so anyway, I want you to go through and practice this exercise to help you begin to identify the feelings that you experience. Just labeling your feelings will begin to open up space in your brain for you to be able to identify and then begin to value what it is that you feel. The third tool that I want to get in your hands in order to be able to help you begin to heal from gaslighting is to begin to trust other people again. Most people that finally extricate themselves from a relationship where gaslighting has been a problem frequently swing clear to the other side where they're like, I'm not going to trust anybody. I hate how that felt. I hate second guessing myself. I hate feeling like I have to justify everything I do. I hate being made to feel my feelings and my thoughts are wrong. And so then they're like, I'm not going to let anybody have any power to affect me at all. That's also not healthy. And that doesn't lead to the kinds of outcomes that you actually want in your life or that work. What you're really looking for is to be in a relationship with somebody where you actually feel valued, where your feelings are valued, where there's space, where somebody cares about what you think, where somebody isn't threatened by you having a different thought or feeling from them. And by not letting anybody in and by not letting anybody influence you, that doesn't allow any space for you to actually develop something healthy in your life. And you don't want to just go from one form of dysfunction to another form of dysfunction. You've worked really hard to get away from dysfunction. Now you want to move into health. What I want you to do to practice learning how to trust somebody again is I want you to practice sharing your feelings with somebody that you trust. Chances are pretty good that there's somebody in your life who you know actually does care about how you feel and how you think. I want you to ask them, get permission from them, and ask them, hey, do you mind if, once a week or a couple of times a week, I just practiced sharing my feelings with you? That may seem a little or feel a little awkward. It's actually a really effective tool to practice trusting somebody and relearning that it's actually okay to be vulnerable and that there are people who actually do care about what you think and how you feel. And so I want you to get that permission, and then I want you to practice sharing with them what you feel. Just experience what it feels like. Give your brain an opportunity to collect data, to experience what it feels like to be heard, seen, and valued again. Gaslighting shrinks you. Healing is about taking back the space that you deserve. One of the things I absolutely want you to know is that it is possible to heal from gaslighting. We as human beings are incredibly resilient. You are not destined to be in crappy, dysfunctional relationships where you feel devalued and invisible for the rest of your life. Do not let the turkey who you've been in the relationship with and who has made you feel the way that you feel continue to have power over you and your relationships from here forward. You got out of that, or you need to get out of it, and then you need to stop allowing him to have the power in your life that he's had up to now.